Well, a very pleasant good afternoon to you and you and you. Whatever part of the world you may be joining us today, we say welcome to another program, Transforming Lives One at a Time. And we are not just here to have conversations. The objective of this program is to effect change on the social landscape. We are here to inform, we are here to be relevant, and we are here to provide the necessary information you need to become the best version of yourself. We are coming to you from scenic Tobago in the Twin Island Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Well, today we are continuing, as promised, with part 2 on the topic Love and Relationship with counseling psychologist, Mrs. Benjamin. Rhonda Thompson Benjamin is currently the lead psychologist at Equilibrium Counseling Services. Rhonda holds a bachelor's degree in social work and a master's degree in counseling psychology from the University of the Southern Caribbean. She has worked in the Ministry of Education in both the social work and guidance counseling departments of the Children's Authority. She believes in giving back to society and has worked with several non-governmental organizations. She provides support for individuals and families with emotional regulation issues, stress management, dating, and relationships. Mrs. Benjamin, welcome once again to the program.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me today.
Yes. And as usual, we say when it's nice, you do it twice and sometimes thrice. Eh?
Of course.
Yes. Well, as we once again explore the various dynamics involved in love and relationships, I would like us to go a bit in depth regarding the various love languages as it relates to how important it is to learn your partner's love language.
I am happy that we started there because yes. I think understanding your partner's love language is indeed a hack. Sometimes we do so much and we feel as though we are failing in relationships, but sometimes we are not quite hitting that spot that our partner needs to feel loved and appreciated. So the 5 love languages was a concept coined by Gary Chapman. And he basically says that we receive and we give love in different ways. So there are 5 ways. The first one is acts of service. So some persons may appreciate, you are helping me with the dishes, taking out the garbage. Then there is another one called receiving gifts, and many persons get scared by this one because they believe that it's about spending large sums of money. However, this person would just appreciate meaningful gifts. So that may mean just going to the grocery and buying a snack that person likes. So acts of service, receiving gifts. The other one is quality time. So that person may enjoy spending time with their partner if it's going to the beach, but there must be no distractions. Yes? The other one is physical touch. So some persons may like hugs. They feel close to the other when they receive physical touch and affection. And of course, there is the last one, words of affirmation. This person values compliments so much. So they like to hear that you did a wonderful job at that interview. They like to hear you look beautiful today, you look handsome today. And really understanding how your partner feels love would really help to avoid misunderstandings, and it will also help in terms of building emotional intimacy in the relationship. So many times partners give love the way they want to receive it. But it's not about you. Maybe you like acts of service, so you would be doing a lot for your partner, but they just want words of affirmation. So it's important in terms of understanding how we can connect as partners and how we could feel reassured in that person's love, your partner's love.
Because as I was getting prepared for this interview, a thought came to me in terms of speaking your partner's love language and how it's so very crucial, because if your partner is speaking Chinese and you don't know one thing about Chinese, it means that you would be speaking Chinese, I am speaking English here, and we're not understanding each other.
Correct. So a lot of misunderstanding could happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I want us to touch on, just before that, as you spoke about the beach and no distraction. This was not a question I had planned, but distraction. Let's talk about the phones.
Wow.
Because in terms of spending time with each other, and then you always have this phone. Let's talk about this.
Yeah. Well, recently, many couples are having conflict regarding phones and social media. And sometimes we are addicted to these devices and we are not aware. So you are having a conversation with your partner, you're looking at your phone, you're looking at a video, you're saying, yes, okay. And then you do not follow through. So let's say it's a request that your partner was communicating about. You are just saying yes because you are already distracted.
Yes.
And then other issues come up. So there might be a level of insecurity because why you're on the phone all the time?
Yes.
Yeah. And all of these things we have to consider in terms of our relationship. So getting rid of those distractions, although it might be difficult at the start, once we exercise that muscle, right, we can do it because we don't want to be in relationships, especially if that person values quality time and they are feeling unloved and they are feeling as though their needs are not being met.
Yeah, because how I look at it, we are not together 24/7, and you would have your time when you have your phone.
Correct.
But my thing is that if we are now supposed to be having quality time and we having a conversation, why is it, I'm not saying you can't answer your phone, but why is it that we can't sit and have a meal without
because our lives are on the phone now. So any appointment that we have, anybody we have to communicate with, everything is there on the phone. So sometimes we cannot separate ourselves from this device. So it's important to understand that this could really affect the quality of your relationship and make right decision or wise decisions going forward.
Yes, because if you're not wise, we don't want to be otherwise.
Correct.
Well, I want us to touch on expectations in a relationship and how soon that conversation should be had. In addition to that, establishing clearly defined boundaries between partners.
Yeah. Well, I think expectations should be discussed early, right? In the first few months of the relationship, because you don't want to establish something long term until you are working together. You understand that we are on the same page.
Yes.
Many times persons are in relationships, they believe that they are in relationships, but it wasn't discussed.
Okay.
And the other person, if you ask them, they would say, no, we're just friends.
Right.
We are just dating. It's not a committed relationship.
Okay.
So it's important very early on to discuss roles. You know, what is my role? What would be your roles? What are your expectations in terms of communication and commitment?
Yes.
You know, if we are working forward to marriage, how much children would you want to have? What about the finances?
Yes.
Would we pool it together? Or is it that you will manage your finances and I would manage mine? Okay. All of those things are very important discussions to have, because when you decide on being in a long-term or committed relationships, committed relationship, and these things are not expressed, it could lead to a lot of disappointment, hurt, and pain. So very early on, I'm not saying the first date, right? But in the first few months, these things should be raised.
If you realize things getting a little more serious.
Correct. Okay. Yes, you should raise those issues.
Right, because you spoke about how many children. There are some persons who definitely don't want to have any children at all.
Yes.
And then the other partner, they want to have 4 or 5, and then because they don't talk about it, it creates problems later on. So actually, when persons don't have these kinds of in-depth conversation, they're actually setting up themselves.
Correct. And the thing is, right, sometimes we trick ourselves into believing that even though he doesn't want children or she doesn't want children and I want it, they will change their mind.
Yes.
You know,
right.
I could convince them of something else. Once you realize that your expectations doesn't align, it may not be the relationship for you. I know it's hard.
Yes.
You may have to go through that grieving process, but in the long term, it would prevent more pain and heartache for you.
So it's better to walk away early.
Yes.
Than to try later on when you have invested so much time and resources and heartbreak and then to bank. Anyway, we're not going to talk about the bank today. So let's talk about the boundaries between partners.
So it's important, even when you are going into a relationship, to have personal boundaries, right? So not because we are in a relationship means that you have access to everything in my life. Now, I'm saying that we have to be transparent in a relationship.
Yes.
But your boundary is, as simple and trivial as it may seem, when I buy food, I will buy for me and you. If I leave mine in the fridge, don't go and eat it out, right? So having boundaries over personal property, sex and intimacy, many times we don't even have these conversations. So you are assuming that I will do everything you request. For how long you request it, right? And those are things that we have to talk about beforehand. If you know that this is not something that you could commit to or something that really aligns with your values, you have to move emotions away, although you cannot do that completely. You have to focus on the logical side of things. It may not work because I might be dissatisfied, you might be dissatisfied, and we don't want that. We want a healthy, happy relationship. So in terms of boundaries, you have to have personal boundaries and also boundaries with others. So we're referring to family and friends.
And we're going to talk about that a little later
as we go on.
That has been really creating some problems.
So we have to have boundaries in every aspect of our lives in order for us to feel safe. Boundaries is not necessarily trying to keep people out, but it's to assess who comes in and who stays out. Yes? Many times people don't want to explore boundaries because sometimes when we think about boundaries, we think in rigid terms, and sometimes it could get us scared. But boundaries is just, that tool that we could utilize so that we ensure others know where we stand and we as well know our personal boundaries so we know which relationships to entertain.
Definitely. Wow. A lot of information there. Well, you touched on it just a second, but we're going to get into it now in terms of as it relates to relatives and friends, because I believe boundaries as it relates to relatives and friends, because this is a major issue that I believe that we have not given the attention and the seriousness that it needs. How much should you share about your personal relationship with your relatives, your friends, your co-workers, even your children? Should you share intimate details? And how far is enough? First of all, we have to be very selective in who we share with and what we share. Now, if you would have grown up in a family where boundaries were very porous, anything could happen. We could talk to, anything that happens, we could just share with anybody. Then it would be difficult if you have not gained the skills and the tools to do so. It would be very hard to maintain that in a relationship or to build in a relationship. And it's important also to recognize that when you share details with other people about your relationship, you are inviting other perspectives. So who we share it with, we should ensure that they have a similar value system as it relates to the topic, right? There are exceptions in cases of abuse and all of those things. Of course, you need to share with somebody to help you to come up with a plan. But outside of those things, we have to recognize that when we share too much, especially if we have not gotten the consent of the other party, there could be a lot of issues of distrust
Yeah, because I was vulnerable.
Yes.
I have something, I'm not perfect. And because I have this issue, you went and shared it with the world. And I always tell couples, you will forgive them, but sometimes your family, they don't forgive.
Precisely. Yes.
So you are working on your relationship, you all fixed that, you went to therapy, everything is good. But at the back of your family's mind, they can't let this thing go. Right? So sometimes we really have to access professional help in order to navigate things through, because sometimes family and friends, they may have a very biased opinion and they may not offer you that advice to help you to navigate through some of these circumstances. Sharing with your children, it depends on your child's age, their stage. But at the same time, we have to consider that this is another relationship. Children should not adopt the roles of an adult or a partner or a friend. It causes a lot of confusion, especially if they are younger children, because they feel like I have to choose between mommy and daddy. Right? So it's important to understand the stage of development of that child, and if that child could offer you any type of advice. So if I'm having a conflict with my partner, how does me sharing with my child,
a 7-year-old, help
the situation?
Right.
So sometimes we share these things because we have our insecurities and we want to be validated by our children and we want them to choose sides. But at the end, it causes a lot of issues as it relates to discipline. Because that child now perceives you as their friend, so they respect the other partner more. Or they could disrespect the other partner.
I was just thinking that.
Because of the information that was shared. And of course, it can hamper, other areas of their lives in terms of their academic development, because they are so focused on the issues that are happening between my parents that I cannot focus. So we have to be very selective of what and when we share.
And then even as it relates to issues within the home and you have your children, I think much more wisdom has to be applied. Because remember, we are training these young minds to one day enter into their own relationships, have their own families, and things like this could be so traumatic and they have to deal with it. So sometimes they get involved in a relationship 15 years later and they are still scarred. That is a very crucial area. So as parents, you have to be very wise. Exercise caution, knowing that it is going to affect the children at some point.
Yes, definitely.
Yes. Well, Mrs. Benjamin, we must touch on this. This is a kind of touchy issue, which in my view has been wreaking havoc across the globe. Can one remain, or should one remain close friends with their ex? Is it recommended? Is it a wise move? Still going out together, frequent phone conversations, and of course you have some with the mentality, I'm not giving up my friend for my partner. Just weighing on this. Did somebody say real talk?
Real talk. I think, even in these circumstances, again, context, it matters. Now, if you have a friend and there is still that emotional tie, then that is something that you have to pay attention to. Ask yourself the question, why am I unable to create boundaries between myself and this ex? Now, if you have children together, you have to communicate on some level.
Yes, of course.
But the boundary should be in place that we only talk about the children.
Yes.
If you have a current partner, then we have to consider how this relationship is really affecting my partner. Right? So if you're unable to make that separation between you and your ex, it means that is it really friends, or is it a situation of control? You just want to control who you are in relationships, and my partner, it doesn't matter about your feeling, it's just about me and what I want. So even though you may think it's platonic, it's nothing big, we have to be careful, because there could be issues that would arise in your current relationship because of these things. So you're going to the beach, you're taking phone calls, although you all may be friends, it could be perceived in a particular way.
Correct.
So you have to weigh, what matters more, my ex relationship, and it's an ex for a reason, or my current relationship. So we have to be very careful as we navigate that.
Right. Okay. I don't think we finished that, but we're going to take a short break at this time, and we will come back with more. Stay with us.
If you're wondering where to find top-tier quality tiles and products to refurbish or renovate your wall, floor, or pool, well, your worry is over. Come to D-Cells Tile and Ceiling Center, Store Bay Local Road, opposite the Bonnecourt Primary School, Tobago, where you will find porcelain, mosaic, and ceramic tiles of the highest quality guaranteed. D-Cells Tile and Ceiling Center also stocks thinset, grout, tile cutters, and yes, windows. Plus, a friendly smile and service that's second to none awaits you. So forget the hassle and get all the quality tiles you need right here in Tobago at D-Cells Tile and Ceiling Center. Call us today at 460-8802, 639-8281. Opens Monday to Saturday from 9 a.m.
Hi, I am Deanne, host of Transforming Lives One at a Time, and I would like to introduce you to our brand new segment, Good Vibes, Good News. And this is where you have the opportunity to highlight your good vibes, good news with us. You could send your 90-second video to our WhatsApp number 1-868-701-2099. That's 1-868-701-2099. Let's hear some of the good news that we never hear about. Good vibes, good news, inspiring hope, celebrating wins, truly grateful.
NSL School and Office Supplies for all your school uniforms, textbooks, stationery, and craft supplies. Located obliquely opposite Stumpy's Bypass, Canaan. Also offering printing, photocopying, and much more. Give them a call today, 615-6595-477-5905, or email them at nslbookstore@gmail.com.
Welcome back to Transforming Lives One at a Time. On this program, we aim to be very transparent as it relates to issues that affect us on a daily basis. I believe for too long we have been either covering up the real issues, not dealing with them, or simply ignoring the problem. Hence the reason we have so many problems affecting us today on the social landscape. Ms. Benjamin, I would like us to touch on how crucial is mutual respect in relationships, and generally let's talk about giving compliments to each other.
Okay, I think that's very important, because men in particular, they often equate respect to love. And if the respect is not given, it could really shake the foundation of a relationship.
Right.
Of course, respect on both ends are important. However, I have found particularly for men,
yes,
if the respect is not there, of course, it could lead to different feelings that may indeed have affect the progress of the relationship. Now, when we have respect in the relationship, it really creates that sense of safety.
Okay.
So I know that regardless of what happens, my partner would respect me, respect my decisions, my choices.
Okay.
They may not always agree,
right,
but they would respect you
yes,
for the choices that you make. So respect would include the tone of voice, right?
Yeah.
How you bring issues to the forefront. Sometimes we are so affected by certain things. We lash out, we call our partner names, You know, we use obscene language.
Yes.
And these are deep forms of disrespect.
True.
Now, for some persons, they may say, you know what, that small thing, that's how I grew up. But for your partner, it may be a big thing because they may not be accustomed to that form of conflict or that type of conflict.
Yes.
Listening without interrupting. Many times when we are having conversation, sometimes your partner says something and you rub the wrong way, so you interrupt the person from sharing.
Right.
And that creates that feeling of disrespect.
Okay.
So we want to be able to follow through with what we consider the basic forms of respect in our relationships, and also valuing your partner's thoughts. Again, you may not agree, but sometimes because your partner does not agree, you demean what they say.
Yes.
You undermine it. Sometimes you are very outright and you say, what stupidness you talking?
Yes.
That making any sense?
Yes.
But what does that do to a person? You know, sometimes we have to have empathy for one another in terms of, okay, if I was sharing and I feel so convicted about this topic, how would I feel if someone would just shut me down? But in terms of giving compliments and so, it's important to show that element, and we kind of touched on it at the beginning when we were referring to the love languages.
Yes.
But in order to balance things out, because sometimes we criticize so much. And there is no balance with compliments. So we only calling out things that are wrong. So you are taking out, it's like an emotional bucket. So you're taking out things, you're taking out from the bucket, but you're not adding. Eventually that person will feel empty.
Correct.
So we have to, while we're taking out, we have to pour in as well. And we have to do more pouring in than taking out, because we want our partners to feel full. So we have to be able to balance the criticism or the request for changes with positives. So you mightn't be too good at cooking, but I see you're doing other things well. You're making an effort, and you're also doing other things very well. So we have to create that balance so that everybody feels respected, especially in terms of their strengths and weaknesses.
Of course. I heard my good friend, life coach Michael Stewart, said recently that praising your spouse is a win-win situation. And of course, always a good way to start a conversation. And I found that to be so profound. Because when you praise someone, it's like, okay, you know you wanted them to cut the yard about 6 weeks now, right? So everything is overgrown, and you know, or you probably had a bad day at work, and you come home and you say, you know, I just wanted to get home because I know I could talk to you and you would understand everything I'm saying, and you would, you know, you started with that conversation, you know, by next day the yard cut, right?
Yes, and we often talk about the feel-good sandwich. Even if you want to present something that is difficult, you praise, that will be the bun. Then you put whatever meat inside, so that's the problem, and then you end with a compliment. So the person feels validated. They feel as though, okay, it's not only issues that you are bringing, but you respect and you appreciate me despite some of these concerns. So compliment, bring the issue up, and then compliment.
Yes. And as you spoke earlier, I mean, I know we were talking about mutual respect, but the first two things most critical for a man, number one is respect. Number two is sex, but number one is respect. And that said something to me. So when a man feels disrespected, you can't really get much out of him. And as spouses, you have to understand. You're in a relationship, you have to understand. It's like studying that partner. So just as how the woman would study the man, same thing the man would study. As a friend said, women are scientific beings. You have to study us. I don't know.
To me, it goes both ways. It goes both ways.
Yes. But even I was speaking to a gentleman some time ago, and he said, you know, you women are complicated. I said, yes, I know. I said, women are detailers, men are headliners. But he said, men are really very simple, you know. You would have his birthday come up and you would ask, okay, babe, so what do you want to do for your birthday? And he would say, well, you know what? You just make a really nice dumpling and crab. Just make that for me and let's just sit down and watch some movies. That is all he wants.
Yeah.
He requested that.
Simple.
But Miss now decide that this is not enough. We're gonna have a barbecue out and really that is not what he wants.
So he's annoyed because you did that, because he wanted time alone for his birthday to reflect.
Yes.
And then in turn you become upset because you see that as ungrateful.
Right.
Yeah, so we have to pay attention to the dynamics of a relationship and truly understand your partner. Yeah.
Wow, definitely, definitely. Just recently, I heard a gentleman sharing about how destructive it can be in a relationship when a spouse shares intimate information. When a spouse shares intimate information with their spouse, they confide in them, maybe something that occurred in their childhood or something like that. And whenever they get a misunderstanding, they throw it back in their face.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
That's very destructive. And in extreme forms, it could be deemed as emotional abuse because you are using that person's vulnerable moments.
Yes.
Sometimes just for your advantage to win a conversation or a conflict, and it's a form of manipulation. So we have to be careful when your partner confides in you, something that is their deepest secret.
Yeah.
It is your responsibility to hold them and to keep that safe, because anytime you bring that up or maybe even share with another person, that person could feel as though now you become a threat in the space. A fight or flight response is activated, and you know this happens so much in relationships, even persons who I counsel, because you would have shared that detail with somebody else, or you brought it up in another conversation. Now you feel as though you are sleeping with the enemy.
Right, because you can't trust.
You can't trust the person. So when somebody shares, although it might be something that may affect you in the future, because if this thing could affect the relationship, then you may be tempted to bring it up in a conflict. But we have to choose the right time. We have to use wisdom. Even if what they shared, there is something that you want to share with the person, not in arguments. Wait until things have settled, you're in a good place, and then invite the person. Is it okay for me to bring this up? I really want to share something, you know, and give that person that choice when they are ready to be open to the conversation.
Is it that many times, or a lot of times in relationships, that partners don't exercise the level of wisdom, or as we say, I'm bringing up this word, situational sensitivity? Because if it is that your partner is not in too much of a good mood, you would know, and you have something that's really, really on you. You really, really need to get it out. How? What?
That level of self-control, because sometimes we are so focused on what we want, and when we want it now. So sometimes because of that, we could be tempted to be out of timing and, you know, present these issues to our partners. But we have to also look at the long-term effects. You are looking at, if I share this right now, maybe we'll come to some resolution, or I'll get it off my chest. But what happens after? You know, so while we consider the short-term effects, we also have to consider the long-term effects of that. So you might win the battle, but ultimately you want to win the war. yes.
You want to win the war. You don't want to just win this battle and then lose the war.
Correct, yeah.
Because this is a long term. So what I'm hearing is that we have to be more intentional as it relates to our relationships.
Yes.
We have to respect more. And again, who you value, you honor.
Yes, correct.
So if it is that I don't honor you in my relationship, it means I don't value you because you honor who you value.
Correct. So we have to make the adjustments. Sometimes we know the right thing, you know, but it's about making the adjustments. Again, sometimes we are so focused on self.
Yeah.
You know, when you ask somebody many times, why do you want to get married? Because he gives me this or she gives me that.
Yes.
Or not because I want to be a good spouse to this person. So sometimes we enter into a relationship.
Yeah.
Let's not talk about marriage alone in terms of what we could get, what we could take.
Yes.
And although that's important, because you don't want to be in a relationship with somebody that can't add value to you or your situation. But it should not be solely about what you can do for me. Right? It's about what we could do for each other.
And then I came up with this. Many times we have persons saying, okay, I want to be with someone who making 6 figures. And well, a lot of times, let's be honest, a lot of times women would say this. I want to be with somebody, he must be whatever stipulations. But 6 figures, he must have his own house by 30, driving a Lamborghini or Mercedes or whatever, have a good stable job, stuff like that. And we look at these things, and when we look at the person who is saying, this is what I want, they are still living in their parents' house. They're unemployed.
Wow.
They don't even have the piece of land yet to get the house. So it's like you are expecting this knight in shining armor to have all of these and to be able to be in that position by age 30. But what are you bringing to the table?
Yes. And some women are triggered by that too, They are triggered by what do you bring to the table. Some women say, I am the table.
Right.
You know, but if we look at it from a realistic point of view rather than an emotional one, for any relationship to work, you have to give something.
Of course.
You have to be something.
Yes.
Because if you want a businessman who is making 6 figures, there are things that you will have to do. If you have children, you may have to be with them doing the homework because he's out in the business. So you have to have good parenting skills.
Yes.
So
you have to bring something to the table. Don't just look at this gentleman and he has to have everything all together and then you're still working on you.
Yes. So
but you're making demands. No, the reason why
we
I
have
brought
to be
it
realistic.
up. Yeah, we have to be real. I brought it up because a lot of men, whenever I have conversations, they would say, but yes, you're expecting this and you're expecting that, and but what are you bringing? You understand? So we have to be fair. Yes, we know men are ultimately providers and the protectors and stuff like that. But when you come into a relationship, help is here. You come as a helpmeet. Help has arrived.
Yes.
But it means you have to be doing something as well. Because if you're helping, you're not just sitting down with your hand folded and okay, I'm just gonna be home on my bed all day, and I have no problem if that is what you want to do.
The arrangement that you make.
Right. You have to decide. But at least when the gentleman comes home, let him get a hot plate of food. At least the home should be. Listen, I told you we're real on this program, and don't come for me. I'm just saying we have to be real, we have to be honest, and whatever we want for ourselves, we are supposed to want it for others.
Definitely.
I'm just saying, I am very balanced. I am not I'm not attacking anybody, but I'm saying these are the issues that we need to bring out so that we can have better grounded, healthier relationships.
Definitely.
All right? I want us to talk about what is considered a toxic relationship and maybe some of the signs that a relationship is becoming toxic.
A toxic relationship is a relationship that harms your emotional, physical, social, financial, any of the shall
Right.
well-beings, right?
Okay.
And it must be something that is consistent.
Okay.
Sometimes, there are disagreements. Sometimes there's a miscommunication.
Yes.
And sometimes persons would say, you toxic.
Okay.
But this is something that we have to see as a pattern of behavior.
All right.
Not just what we call a mistake, but it's something, this is what somebody has been doing over a consistent period.
Okay.
So some of those behaviors may look like manipulation. So, pretending, and this happens so often. Many times you come to a relationship and all of a sudden your mother isn't good, your father isn't good, your friends are not good, and they isolate you from everybody else, and you think that this is your hero, right? They are the best thing that you have ever seen.
Yes.
And sometimes that person would isolate you
Okay.
from your social support, control where you should go, where you shouldn't go. And it's okay to advise your partner, maybe this mightn't be the best event because so and so
Right.
something happened last year, so be careful.
Yes.
But we are talking about control in terms of finances, control as it relates to where you physically are. All of those things would indicate that there is some level of toxicity in this relationship.
Okay.
Yeah.
So those are things that you need to look out for.
Mm-hmm.
So it means that we have to be very alert.
Yes.
What I'm getting to realize? Getting into a relationship now, it's not like years ago, when we were so naive and, well, he's a good guy, she's a good girl, she grew up in a good home and that kind of thing. But with the advent especially of social media and so many different things that we are being bombarded with, we have to be very, very cautious.
We have to, definitely.
Self-preservation is key. All right. Well, at this time, we're going to preserve a break right here. All right. So stay with us. We are talking love and relationships. And every time we get into this topic, it's like we don't ever want to stop. But stay with us. We'll be right back.
If you're wondering where to find top-tier quality tiles and products to refurbish or renovate your wall, floor, or pool, well, your worry is over. Come to D-Cells Tile and Ceiling Center, Store Bay Local Road, opposite the Bonnecourt Primary School, Tobago, where you will find porcelain, mosaic, and ceramic tiles of the highest quality guaranteed. D-Cells Tile and Ceiling Center also stocks thinset, grout, tile cutters, and yes, windows. Plus, a friendly smile and service that's second to none awaits you. So forget the hassle and get all the quality tiles you need right here in Tobago at D-Cells Tile and Ceiling Center. Call us today at 460-8802, 639-8281. Opens Monday to Saturday from 9 a.m.
Hi, I am Deanne, host of Transforming Lives One at a Time, and I would like to introduce you to our brand new segment, Good Vibes, Good News. And this is where you have the opportunity to highlight your good vibes, good news with us. You could send your 90-second video to our WhatsApp number, 1-868-701-2099. That's 1-868-701-2099. Let's hear some of the good news that we never hear about. Good vibes, good news, inspiring hope, celebrating wins, truly grateful.
NSL School and Office Supplies for all your school uniforms, textbooks, stationery, and craft supplies. Located obliquely opposite Stumpy's Bypass, Canaan. Also offering printing, photocopying, and much more. Give them a call today, 615-6595-477-5905, or email them at nslbookstore@gmail.com.
Welcome back to the program. I'm here with counseling psychologist Mrs. Rhonda Thompson Benjamin. And just before the break, we were talking about toxic relationships. Are there any safety measures that one can put in place to avoid a toxic relationship, and just when is time to exit?
Yeah, that's a very important question, because sometimes we enter into relationships and we are not prepared. So firstly, I would say is to establish yourself, establish your standards. Know your worth, what is acceptable and unacceptable for you. Because if you are not quite clear, then it will be tough to make decisions in relationships when you eventually see these signs.
Okay.
So be very clear upfront as to what you will and will not accept. I would also say, do not ignore the small warning signs.
Okay.
They often grow.
Right.
Sometimes you enter into conflict with a person and they come up to your face and you say, small thing, at least she didn't hit me.
Yeah.
Or at least he didn't hit me. And you know, we see those things as very small, but that is usually an indication that this person has some anger issues.
Yes.
So when you see elements of control, when you see even at the early stages that this person is not allowing you to have, engage in, things that help you feel good, things that you enjoy in terms of your career and social events, that is an indicator that something is wrong.
Okay.
I'm not saying to leave immediately, but at least have a conversation and be wise.
Right.
Be very observant and see if this is a pattern of behavior that you are noticing.
Okay.
The other thing that we need to do is to move slowly. Sometimes we rush and we give so much emotionally.
Yes.
So when we are at that stage of the relationship where we are seeing so many red flags, it's difficult to part ways because you have emotionally invested so much. So go slow. Yes, the initial attraction is there. Yes, the adrenaline is going. Yes, you want to form that relationship, but take your time. When you see that this is a pattern of behavior, when you acknowledge, because you feel it in your body.
Of course, you know.
You sense when something is off. But again, because of the emotional investment that you have made, you choose to turn a blind eye.
Right.
But when you realize that this relationship is impacting on your stress levels, you can't function. Because you're only thinking about, okay, I wonder what he doing home, or I wonder what she's doing home. It's affecting your functioning in work, so you can't get the amount of work you usually do done. You realize that you're walking on eggshells.
Wow.
You have to rehearse in your mind how to bring up topics, and there is nothing wrong with evaluating. Let me see how I could present this in the best way.
Yes.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Mm-hmm.
But if you realize that any issue that affects you may be a trigger for the other person, then you realize that this is not something that I could stay in.
Okay.
I have to make the tough decision to move on.
Right.
And depending on the level of the toxic behavior, because it could go on a continuum, it could reach to abuse. If that person is abusive to you, you need to find help.
Yeah.
You need to find support, because again, it's a psychological thing. If there is verbal abuse, you may really feel like you can't live without the person.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you say, I bail you, I could break you,
So nobody else would want you.
Nobody else would want you. So sometimes you really have to receive help from a professional to help you to develop a safety plan.
Okay.
When we heading out, where we could go, and how we could remain safe.
Wow.
Yeah.
Exit. Well, you touched on it briefly, but I want us to talk quickly about red flags in relationships. Is it that we are so, quote unquote, blinded by the rays of love that we just ignore, or we refuse to take these red flags seriously. Maybe
Yeah.
saying, she will change, he will change. Yeah, man, there was just vex, you know.
Yes.
It's my fault, I should not do this.
Yeah, I think we have to be educated on toxic behaviors and abusive relationships, because there is something called the cycle of abuse. So something happens to trigger a particular behavior in the abusive person. Then the abuse occurs. Then they love bomb you. I am so sorry.
Yes.
Things appear to seem nice until the other thing happens.
Okay.
So we have to understand that even though this person apologizes, if they continue that behavior, it means that we have a bigger problem.
Correct.
Yeah?
Correct.
So in terms of some of the behaviors that we have to look out for, jealousy disguised as love. So it's because I love you, I don't want you to talk to this person.
Right.
It's because I love you, that's what I'm feeling. And sometimes we get a kick out of it, like, oh, I'm so special to this person. That's why they're so upset. And we feel good about that. But if those behaviors are not confronted or changed, it could go from one end to the extreme.
Right.
Another thing that we should look out for is that guilt tripping. Wanting to do something that would benefit you as a person,
right,
and even the relationship, and the person doesn't see it that way, and then they guilt trip you don't love me. If you really cared about me, you would not go and get that degree.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
Because you have to sacrifice your time to get this thing.
Of course.
And now that person may not be receiving as much time. So sometimes, that guilt tripping would prevent persons from achieving their own goal and stay in the cycle of abuse.
Right.
Because they don't want you to have friends. They don't want you to develop holistically. Why? Because you could stay psychologically bound to them.
Right.
So we have to pay attention to that. And the gaslighting, there might be some form of physical abuse. The other day you get up and you're saying, why you did me that last night? And the person might say, what you talking about?
Right.
You dreaming?
Yeah.
So all of those things are indicators that this is a toxic relationship and I have to leave as soon as possible.
As soon as possible.
Yes.
Wow. And unfortunately, what we have been seeing, many times persons don't even get the opportunity to leave.
Yes.
Because they have to go 6 feet under. So it means that whenever you see your life is being threatened,
yes,
run, don't walk, because at the end of the day, your life is worth much more than being stuck in a relationship with someone who professes to love you, but their actions don't show.
Yeah.
Love is an action word.
Correct.
It's an action word. So you can say all you love, but if your actions don't demonstrate it, then we have a problem.
Yes.
We have a problem. Well, we are just getting ready to wind up. And as you spoke about the red flags, our seniors, I had to put in this, our seniors had a saying, and God bless our seniors and the kind of knowledge and wisdom they possess. It goes like this: whatever you see in the daylight, don't wait for night to come. And now you have to take a bully fay, which is one of those things. Eric Powder would have helped me with this better, A bully fay with something that you light there and you now going searching when you see whatever in the daylight. In other words, it encourages you to take action when things are visible and clear. When people show you who they are, believe them. And I just thought that I would throw in that one. Yes. I'm not going to charge you for that one. I'm going to throw in that one for free. All right. Well, I want us to talk basically we are wrapping up now. I would like to give you the opportunity to say to our viewers something that would resonate with them and maybe touch on an area that we did not highlight, and of course give us your contact information.
Of course. So I would want to say to you viewers that healthy relationships are not built by luck. They are built by intention, respect, and mutual support. I would advise that you learn to love yourself first before you enter into relationships, so that you will not accept less than you deserve. Relationships are hard work. Yes. And as we discussed before, sometimes you really have to study your partner to understand ways that you could show appreciation, care, and love for your partner. If you are going through issues, it is not the end of the world. Every relationship goes through issues, but what you have to do is come up with solutions to some of these issues and stick to some of the plans that you would have come up with. So you can contact us at Equilibrium Counseling Service at 376-3760, or you can find us on social media on Instagram and Facebook at Equilibrium Counseling Services. So thank you so much.
Well, let me say thank you so much for joining us again. Such a pleasure having you again, Mrs. Rhonda Thompson Benjamin, lead psychologist at Equilibrium Counseling Services. And today we touched on critical areas as it relates to having better functioning relationships. And of course, that is what we want to see at the end of the day. But as Mrs. Benjamin said, you have to put in the work. Whatever you put in, you would get out. If you don't put in the time, if you don't put in the energy, if you don't put in the love and the respect and so many other things, the communication, then you would not get what you want to get in return. If you don't put something in the ground, you cannot get, if you don't plant peas, how you'll get stew peas when a couple months later? It's just not possible. So I encourage you today, as we wrap up today's program, talking about love and relationships, I want to encourage you today, put in to your relationship. Take the time for your relationship. Put your relationship as priority, because whatever you put as priority is definitely what is important to you. All right. So I want to encourage you again. This is a program Transforming Lives One at a Time. This is where we have to leave you for today. Feel free to like, comment, share, and follow us on all our social media platforms. We are on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and of course, Instagram. Remember to send your 90 seconds videos to Good Vibes, Good News. This is a new segment that we have brought on so that you could send in your videos. We could celebrate your wins. We could inspire hope in others. And we could truly say that you are grateful. All right. I'm your friendly host, Deanne. Always happy to be in your cars and in your homes. I'm going to see you next time. But as usual, I leave you with the definition of transformation, which is an internal shift that brings us into alignment with our fullest potential. Hey, we've got this. See you next time.